How to select the right contract type? Usually, this kind of confusion comes on the side of the employer because they usually choose the entire construction contract type. So either it is an employer or a PMC decision making title. Contractors also use this, but when they are going for subcontracts. So the risk level is always higher with the employer because they decide the larger contracts. So let us see how it works. So start with the core question. Who bears the risk? Contract is just a risk sharing mechanism. So the first question should be, who is going to bear which risk? So every contract type is fundamentally a risk distribution mechanism. So if it is an employer driven risk, that if its employer is going to take the more risk, then use flexible or reimbursable contract. If the contractor is going to take the more risk or the employer is going to transfer the entire risk to the contractor, then you can go for lump sum or EPC contracts. Okay, the third is hybrid mode. That is when there is shared or uncertain risk that you may not able to foresee the complete risks. Then you can go for a shared hybrid or target cost models. If this alignment is wrong, then obviously disputes are inevitable. So what are the key factors that drive the contract selections? The first one is design maturity at the tender stage. So how fully developed design do you have? Whether you have a fully developed design, then go for a lump sum or EPC contract. If you have a partially developed design, then it's better to go with design built or EPC. But you are still at concept level design and the design is not being finalized. It is in a very premature stage. Then you shall only go with cost, reimbursable or target cost mechanisms. So awarding a lump sum contract with an incomplete design is one of the most worst decision you can take because you might not know that the contractor may come up with scope deviations. When the detailed engineering is developed, it might end up with so many number of variations which you could not have imagined. So what is the project complexity and uncertainty? If the project is low complex, everything is under control, then you can go for lump sum. If it is moderately complex and like industrial units, so you can go for item rates or reimbursable or remeasurable contracts. If they are highly complex, like oil and gas projects, metro projects, nuclear projects, we definitely go with EPC or cost reimbursable. So for example, in oil and gas projects, subsurface uncertainty makes fixed pricing risky always, unless heavily priced with contingencies. So this EPCs always allow the contractors because they do not foresee the risks. So what they do is that they keep so many contingencies that it will inflate the prices in EPC. Time sensitivity. So how fast do you need this project? So if it's a fast track project, go for a design build or EPC contract. If you have flexible timelines, that's not as fast required or we still have time to perform this, then you can go for traditional contracts mechanism. So fast tracking often shifts coordination risks. We have to coordinate with multiple subcontractors, PMCs, authorities. Okay, so the transferring that risk to the contractor is the most important part. Because most people don't value that commercially, because that have a great commercial impact and headache to be transferred to the contractor. Next is the employer's technical capability. So if the employer himself is highly technically capable or it has a strong in-house team, then they can go for item rate BOQ contract or a measured contracts. But they have limited expertise and depending on an external party for technical support, then better to go with EPC or turnkey programs. Because many dispute arise where employers choose EPC but still interfere always like a traditional contractor administration, which is a worst style to kill a project. Financing and cash flow structures. So how the funding is going to be arranged for this EPC project. So it is externally financed, whether the lenders are involved, EPC or lump sum, turnkey projects. So if it is internal funding, you can go with flexible models like remeasurable contracts or BOE contracts. So because lenders prefer price certainty, because they're coming for an investment, so they should know what is the entire investment so that they can take the risk. Otherwise, it will be so difficult for them to enter. So that's why lenders do not enter in traditional contract methodologies. So let's see the common contract types and their practical comparisons. So lump sum or fixed price contract. So they are best for when there is a clear scope, when there is a fully developed design. So advantages are price certainty, minimal employer involvement. Risks are because you may come up with the high variation claims if the scope is unclear, and the contractor loads contingencies in the tender prices. So when it fails, so when the design is incomplete at the tender stage, and there are frequent scope changes, that will have a heavy impact on the lump sum or fixed price contracts. Item rate or remeasurable contracts. They're usually best for civil works, roadways, railways, where you don't need to have a high complex design or where you don't have the high expertise, technical expertise to handle it. So advantage is flexibles in the quantities. If the quantities increase, we can handle it. And lower contractor risk pricing. So there will be no any additional contingencies being added for the PVPCs. What are the risks is final cost uncertainty. You may not know what will be the final cost. That is, we used to say is estimated cost at completion, ECA. So measurement disputes will be often there, that your measurement will be something, the contractor measurement will be something, and the point you come to an midpoint will be very difficult when there are some deviations in the contract. So example is high disputes occurs when BOQ descriptions are ambiguous or measurement methodologies are unclear. These two will end up in a high disputes in BOQ contracts. EPC or turnkey contracts. This usually we go with power plants, oil and gas, industrial plants. That is the industry that uses the name EPC. They don't use the name design. The advantages are single point responsibility. The contractor will be the single point responsibility. And time and cost certainty. Comparatively, it has time and cost certainty with other contracts. Even you know that EPC contracts end up with many EOTs, delays, but still they are controllable when compared to other kind of contracts. So what are the risks? High contractor risk is inflated price, because the contractor has to keep all the contingency, because he should not end up in losses because he's going for a lump sum. The complex claim scenarios like delay, interface, design, liability, these are all the complex scenarios that will end up in claims. So what are the real world issues? EPC contractors often face backdoor employee risks, such as delayed approvals, land acquisition problems. They are the major issues leading to the claims in EPC or turnkey projects. Cost reimbursable or cost plus projects. So they are used for highly uncertain projects where contractors do not come for lump sum price. You may float the tender for EPC or lump sum price. They will not be interested because they don't know when there are very high uncertainties in the project. They will not be interested to take a lump sum project. So advantages is flexibility, especially for the employer, and faster mobilizations. And risk is no cost uncertainty. We don't know what it will end up in the final cost, what project will end up in. It requires strict audit and cost control. And we need high professional teams to do this. Practically, it is used in early phases of mega oil and gas projects before the scope phase. So they are mainly used during the feed or the pre-feed stage. The next is target cost or gain sharing. We also call this as a pain sharing. So it's very rare in construction contracts, these type of projects, because they are used only in very collaborative environments. They are used in very high level collaborative environments. They encourages efficiencies, shared risk and rewards. Risks are it requires high trust. So it is possible when the two companies, the employers and the contractors, or either two countries enter into construction contracts. One country will be giving the technology, the other country will be giving the geography to do the explorations. So in that places, there will be high trust and very complex administration is also required in that places. So they are usually used increasingly in infrastructure alliances and triple B projects. Design and build. So design and build is best for projects needing integration of design and constructions. Usually we use this in the buildings infrastructure projects. We don't use these terminologies in EPC oil and gas projects. So advantages is faster delivery, reduced interface issues. Risk is reduced employer design control, fitness for purposes, exposure for the contractor. So this is also one of the large used contract types in construction because they are very successful in controlling the time, cost, and the quality. So this is a small decision matrix for easy understanding. So if the project condition, if you have the fully defined scope, then you can go for lump sum count. The quantity is uncertain, go for item rate count. You need a single point responsible to take all the headaches and all the coordinations and to complete the entire project on time, quality, and cost. Go for EPC. But your design should be under your control. High uncertainty, cost plus, need collaborations, target cost, fast track delivery, design point. So what are the common mistakes in contract selections? Choosing the lump sum for incomplete design. They leads to heavy variations and the change orders, then that will end up in arbitrations. Second is using EPC without true risk transfer. That is, the employer keeps interfering in design, procurement, everything. So in that case, also it results in failures because it results especially in delays on approvals, and that will end up in huge cost for the contractor. Then he will come back to the claim. Ignoring interface risks. So interface is a very large complex area. So particularly in multiple packages, if it's a brownfield, if it's a large mega project, that is going to have a large number of headaches. Underestimating contract administration capabilities. So complex contracts require very strong contract administration team. Project team alone. Project team will be busy in handling the project and execution. They will not be handling both the parts of the contractual liabilities and what you're going to come up with the claims and end up with disputes. So you should have a very equally contract administration team, not a single guy. Usually I have seen that a project team will be 10 people and the contracts will be one guy who will be handling the entire contract. So you have a contract team to offload. Actually, when you increase your contract team, the project team, you don't need 10 people to handle the project. So that will get reduced. The strategic perspectives used by the claim experts. So from a claims and dispute standpoint, that's our area, right? So lump sum contracts, they usually results in variation claims. EPC contracts, they have delay claims, disruption claims, and design liability claims. Item rate contracts, they end up in measurements and rate disputes. Cost plus contracts, they result in audit and cost administrability disputes. So the contract type does not eliminate the dispute, but at least you will have a forecast. These are the disputes we are going to end up with, and so we can focus on those kinds of disputes. So let us see some of the examples in some projects like metro EPCs projects and what kind of issues you might face. So for example, if you're going with a metro rail project, an item rate project, the issues will be the quantity variations. I have seen projects which has ended up in 40% of the project value. I might be saying less. Some of the audience might have faced more than that. So outcome is major cost escalation disputes, which will not be handled. So second is oil and gas disputes. They are usually lump sum EPC contracts. If there are delayed land handovers, delayed site access, that's going to be end up in a massive prolongation and EOD process. Like industrial plant buildings, fast track projects, usually they go with cost plus, or when they get a certainty, they may convert into EPC later. So this will reduce the early stage risk, but disputes during the conversion phase. When you are converting to cost plus, when your contract conversion is not an easy part. That is going to be a headache. Experts can do it clearly, but still experts know what are the disputes they are going to end up in. So they will try to lock those areas where the leakage is. So we have come to almost the closure of this presentation, and let's summarize everything. So before finalizing the contract type, ask whether the design is 100% complete and who is best equipped to manage the risk. Either the employer, I know the risk as an employer, whether I'm going to handle it, or I'm very uncertain about the risk. I want somebody else to handle this. How critical is time versus cost certainty? And what is the employer's contracts management capability? So what is our in-house capability to manage the contracts? What type of disputes are we willing to handle? So we come to the end of this presentation. I think this might have been useful for you to select a contract type in your next contracts. And do comment if you want to have any specialized topics to be discussed. Thanks for watching. Take care.